Hello! In this tutorial I'll teach you how to change some values inside of a dynamic list. So let's log in our framework, let's choose Advanced Workspace, select the My First Project, and before we continue let me show you what we currently have in our database. So basically we have these four tables, basically a school which has multiple teachers and a school which has multiple students, and each student has multiple books. So this tutorial will be based in this specific table here, which basically this table contains a primary key, a foreign key for the student ID table, a name, attribute name which will contain the name of the book, and then another attribute reads, which is a boolean saying that if the student already read that book or not. So what I have done before was I create a page here called books, which basically lists all the records from that table. So as you can see, we have here all the records for the books table that we created before, with the corresponding primary key, the foreign key, the student ID foreign key, which points to the student table, the name column, the name attribute which contains the name of the book, and then a boolean, another attribute called reads, which is a boolean saying that if the student already read or not that specific book. Very simple thing. However, I see that the student ID appears the correspondent ID, so numeric ID, and for the boolean attribute, for the read attribute, I see that appears empty or 1. So, and I don't want this, I want this to the students appears the name of the student, and for the read I want to appear like a string saying read or not read, something like that. So how can we change these values here? So first thing to do is to open the page editor of the books page, that we already did that, and let's go to the correspondent column, to the correspondent widget that shows that value. So for the student ID is this attribute, for the read attribute it is this widget here. So we select that specific widget, we go to the properties of that specific widget, we go to the dynamic widget, and in the display resource attributes we expand this group, these properties here, and we can see here available values. So what we need to do for the reads, we can add some static list with some default values so we can show. So basically we know that the default values are empty and 1, or 0 and 1. So what we need to do, we need to create some values here, some default values here with 0 and with 1 and with empty value, and then we put here the strings that we want to show. So in here we want to show not read yet, if it is empty the same thing, and in here we can put already read. Okay, so if we save this and if we refresh now the page, we can see that doesn't appear anymore empty or 1 or 0 or 1, appears the strings that we put it. So this is just a simple example. Then of course in here we could change this, the CSS, we could make it this bold as an example. So if we scroll down, we could make it here bolder, something like this. So basically this is a very easy way how to show you how can you change values coming from the database into something else. So this, what we did was to create some static values. Now let's say that you want some dynamic values coming from a second table in the database. Like in this case, we have a student ID, which is a foreign key, which is a key, a numeric key, but is pointing to another table, and I want to show the names of that another table. So how can we do that? Very simple. So we go back to our page editor, we select the widget that is showing that specific ID, that in this case is showing these numbers, the ones, and I select that specific widget. I go again to my properties, to the dynamic widget properties, to the display resource attribute, I expand the properties, and I go to my available values. But instead of adding some static values, as I did before, I want to add some dynamic values. I want to add a resource. So I click resource, I click add, and then I go here. If I don't have that specific resource created yet, if I have, I select it here. If I don't have it, I click here and I'll create a new resource, where basically what I need to do is to select the correspondent table, the third-party table, which is the student table, and saying that I want the get options. The type of the query is the get options, so I can get basically a list with the IDs of the students and the name of the students, and I do update, and automatically he creates that resource for me. So when I save, basically what will happen is the system will get now another, besides getting the lists of the books, will get the lists of the students with the IDs of the students and the names, and based on this ID will compare the IDs with the second list and will show here the name. So when I refresh this page, I can see now that is showing the specific name. If I had here another record, let's say that I want to create another book for this guy here, for this student, and he already read the book, so I add it, I can see that the system automatically updates. If the user didn't read it yet, I save it, and automatically all of this gets updated accordingly. So basically this is just to showing you how can you, based in a list, how can you change the values in that list based on some predefined values. Some dynamic values coming from another table, or some hard-coded values. And that's it, so thank you very much.